Good afternoon, everyone. My name is James Cunningham. I am Arts and Learning Officer for Renfrewshire Council. Historically, most of my post has been involved with the instrumental music service in Renfrewshire, but over the last few years, that remit has broadened out to wider arts and creative learning within children's services. We are delighted, Siobhan and myself are delighted to have this opportunity to talk to you about a little programme we have in Renfrewshire, Family Learning Through Music. This programme actually came about a few years ago when we shared a manager with our adult literacies team and our youth services team. The adult literacies team had a programme called Pizza Reading, which ran in a few primary schools in Linwood and Johnston. And the theory behind it, the idea behind it, was to involve parents as part of their children's literacy programme. And there was a problem in some of the schools where parents were perhaps intimidated and felt that their own literacy wasn't perhaps good enough to support the learning that their children were getting in school. Or they were perhaps a little bit reluctant to engage with the school for many different reasons. So the Pizza Reading was developed. Some of you that are on this afternoon may be aware of the programme. Yes, the hook was pizza. It was tremendously successful, but actually the learning outcomes and the support that learners got through by taking part in a programme with parents and carers. It helped with achievement and attainment. It brought some parents and carers into the life of the school. They weren't as intimidated by the prospect of being in school. And actually the adults involved found that they became more confident, not only with their own literacy, but being able to support their children in other aspects of learning. So from that background, my manager, Angela, at the time said, I reckon we can do something around music with this as well. So we had a little look at it, and we were wondering, as a music service, how we could develop anyway. When I took up post, it's fair to say that the criticism that was levelled at us was that we were very middle class and classical. I can't disagree with that at all. That was 11 years ago. So we've taken some steps towards redressing that balance and becoming a music service that is accessible for young people no matter what your interest is. It doesn't all have to be violin and flutes and trumpets. So for instance, we've broadened out our offer now to incorporate more rock and pop music. We have very good, in fact, we've got two pipe bands now, one of which is competing at a very high level. Traditional music is a huge aspect of what we do. So we are trying to broaden out our offer. And this idea of engaging with families in some schools really appealed to us. So we saw the opportunity for wider engagement to be more inclusive. And so we went around. We didn't go for the pizza, I have to say. We kept pizza out of it. But we did, through our Youth Music Initiative programme, which is run in conjunction with Creative Scotland. If we just move forward to the next slide, please, that would be great. So we developed it through Youth Music Initiative, and this type of programme totally fits in with the aims of that programme. It's about creating music opportunities for young people and who perhaps wouldn't normally choose to engage with a typically classical service. So there's lots of benefits for young people through this. It's a door in to music, and so we've gone to 5 primary schools where we've put this programme in. So YMI, it's formula funding each year. So we prepared a bid for Creative Scotland, which was thankfully accepted. They saw the value in what we were trying to do. So if we just move forward again, please. 5 primary schools targeted initially at primaries 1 to 3. And what we wanted to do was provide an offer that was going to be accessible. We didn't want instruments, lots of technique and steep learning curves. This had to be as accessible as possible and as encouraging as possible to get children and parents and carers through the door. So we went for voice-based activity, samba and ukulele. Inclusive, fairly straightforward to make some initial progress and get a good atmosphere going. I think that was making everybody feel really, really comfortable was very, very important. And I think it's fair to say that in most places we've done that. Initially, we were looking at schools in SIMD deciles 1 and 2. What we found was that, yes, those schools were interested, but in some cases, the schools were already, they felt they were getting too much in the way of wider opportunities, and they had to decline. But needless to say, we did find a number of schools who jumped at the opportunity to be involved, and they could see that there was a need, a gap there, that for some parents to be encouraged to engage with the school in a positive manner. This programme, we also have a nurture team within our educational psychologists in Renfrewshire, and we got a lot of support from them in terms of what we were trying to achieve. We're looking not only at developing music skills within the young people, but actually the parents and children are strengthening a nurturing relationship through music and developing confidence and skills together. And as I said earlier on, they feel more comfortable supporting their children generally in their learning, which is a huge positive for us. So I think now, if I pass you over to Siobhan, Siobhan is one of our practitioners, full of beans, full of passion, full of enthusiasm, and hugely knowledgeable as well. She's a real hive of activity. And, you know, me being the sort of council suit or zippy top while I'm working at home, you know, these programmes only come to life when you've got really passionate practitioners to take them forward. So we're delighted to have Siobhan on board, and she'll spend a little while now just giving you a little flavour of how the programme was implemented, how we engaged with families, and the impact that it's had. So over to you, Siobhan. Thank you.
Thanks so much, James. Do you mind if we just move to the next slide? Yeah, so I'm Siobhan. I'm one of the creative practitioners delivering the singing family learning workshops. And I suppose really what I see my role in this is just really sharing my experiences, the experiences that I've had over the past few years working within the family learning workshops. And just a bit of background, I have been delivering in schools for some time now. So when Katie Rush, who coordinates this particular project, and Mark Trainer approached me, I was really excited because I have worked with lots of pupils before, but never the pupils and parents together. So that idea of singing with the families was exciting. I'm going to start off with engagement because that is the key factor in all of this, and the approaches and actions that we took to engage with all involved within the family-led singing workshops. I feel as if I had a little bit of an advantage coming into this because I have been in the schools before and I understand some of the communication challenges, but also I'm a parent. So I knew what the barriers were going to be as well because I have a son. And understanding that really shaped the way I approached this particular project with the support of Katie and Mark. So really, as we sort of started, that was the understand challenges. I knew, right, how do we get parents involved? That's going to be really, really difficult, especially with singing, because if I asked all of you to be involved in singing straight away, I knew there'd be a few that would clam up about that. So there was that barrier, and then the singing barrier for me. There was these two sort of double-handed coins or double-sided coins, but teamwork broke that barrier. And I have to say I was very lucky because I was incredibly supported throughout this journey. Katie is very thorough with communication to the schools, and she took that burden away from me as a creative practitioner by continuously involving me in the conversation, but really taking charge of that aspect of things, which made it easier for me to focus on the delivery and how I can engage with the pupils. And we did that many ways. We did that pre-COVID with me going into the schools and just delivering some really, really short workshops. I think in 2019 I had this idea of going into school assembly where I had parents and pupils there and just doing a really quick warm-up. And straight away I mentioned it to Katie and Mark and they were like, go for it. So having that support for me and my ideas of how I was going to break that barrier in the school was really, really important, and it did work. So, and we're still continuously doing this within the schools. So yeah, it definitely works to be in their face, to be there in person, and just a little bit of a demonstration of what we're going to deliver. And also that takes us on to our next part, which is breaking down the fear barrier, because singing in general, if someone's not used to singing, can be quite a uneasy situation that some parents may find themselves in. They may have a child that loves to sing and sings all the time, so they go along for them, but what challenges are they going to have when they're involved in that project? So really I wanted to give them the confidence within these short bursts of whether it was video or whether it was in person within the school. We did in person in the school before COVID, and then with COVID it was little videos that we used, which we'll give you an example later on. And I did things like warm-up games and chants and trying to make sure it wasn't always about singing to start with and just breaking that in nice and easily. The other way for engagement for me was a flexible schedule. In order to make it happen for me to come into the school, I needed to be as flexible as I possibly could to say, okay, well, on a Monday, I can come into the school from the morning to the afternoon to deliver engagement sessions. And that's obviously separate for the workshops. And taking the time to go into the school, again, them seeing what I do, it isn't as scary as what they think it is, really made the difference with that. So I was as flexible as I could be to engage with each school, and still am, because this is still an ongoing thing for us within Renfrewshire Council. We're always engaging with different schools. Delivering engagement in person and online are very different, as I've just said. So in person, I'm there and the pupils are with me and they feel my energy and they're very responsive to all the games that we do, the singing games that we do. It doesn't matter if they've never sung before, they're there with me, it's great. And when COVID hit and we were delivering these engagements, trying to engage people online, I personally was quite fearful about it because I didn't know how we were going to approach it. But we used material pre-COVID and we brought that together. We made a video, which we'll show you a little bit of in a wee minute, which again broke down that barrier. So they were still, I wasn't there in person, but they were still seeing what we did. And they got another aspect to that as well. I was able then to include my son in the workshops, which made it, I think, a little less scary for them because I became not a teacher or, this person coming in to deliver a workshop. I was just a normal human being as we are with a child and working together. So it sort of broke down that barrier. And I know that's why a lot of people engaged online during COVID because of the videos. So maybe we could show that video now. It's just a wee video example.
Za. Za. Zu. Zu. Zi. Zi. Zo. Zo.
Vision of the one I see. A million hope you're all very well and staying safe. I've missed seeing you and the adults as well. So I thought I'd do a video with a few singing games. Ready, Ruben?
Yeah.
I said a boom, chicka boom.
I said a boom, chicka boom.
What a
Glorious feeling, I'm happy again.
Well done. Okay, let's do it from the start. See, penguins, attention.
Penguins, attention.
Penguins, begin.
Penguins, begin.
Right arm, left arm. Have you ever seen a penguin come to tea? Take a look at me, a penguin you will see.
Great. Yeah, so workshops and sustaining engagement. For us, it's family led. So that was very clear to me when Katie and Mark spoke to me about delivering this project. They said it's family led workshops. So that was a breath of fresh air, because there's nothing worse than going into a workshop and delivering, maybe doing some songs or picking some songs and nobody likes them. And really, I'm able then to engage with a different genre of music across the board. So, we could have AC/DC and Frozen, and it's about combining them together, and how do we do that? How did I do that? I basically did medleys. That's one way I tackled that. I did, one we had some 80s rock anthems, and then it went on to Sam Smith and Tones and I, and we managed to mesh all these songs together to create a huge medley of complete chaos, 80s and then rock and pop. So we're definitely not middle class classical now, I can guarantee that. And also that engages the love of music. A lot of the time your parents or carers will really, really like music, and that's one of the reasons why they come along but are a little bit shy about it, and really giving them the confidence to say, what do you want, what would you like us to sing, and they're able to then put that forward. For the family-led aspect of it as well, I wanted to make sure they had the confidence to tell me. So I also approached it slightly different, where they could write it down. If they didn't actually want to say it out in the group, they could just have a little box where they have a piece of paper, they jot that down the box, and then I take that home and then can work on the songs that have been suggested. A lot of people are maybe a little bit shy telling me what songs they like, but eventually, within our workshops, they really came out their shell, where they were like, no, I want to do Frozen next week, and I want to do whatever it was the next week, which was a real joy to see, and a progression from where we first started. Warm-up games for all. I use Kadai technique, which really, or Kadai method, which is really just to initially engage across the board, so any age at all. And that seems to have worked for us within the singing project. So it might not be singing straight away. I found that as the parents and the pupils came in together, they were almost, on you go and sing, and they wanted to have that background and not really be heard. So one of my challenges was trying to bring the parents out of their shell a little bit more, and have them really included. And with these games, which might be chanting, as you heard, I think in that particular clip we were doing, I said a boom chicka boom, it was all chanting. They were still using their voice and warming up, but it wasn't that initial, okay, we're going to just start singing now. It was a little bit more gentle. And then I'd work on these warm-up games so that when we got into the body of the workshop, they were already used to it. They were already focused and ready to sing and had used their voice, and it wasn't as scary. And I felt as if, I've continued that on every single week now, and with every workshop that I do, we'll always do some sort of workshop game or singing game for all, because it just seems to work. Empowering parents is really important in this workshop. Parents do want to take a back seat, and sometimes I find that if the parent is particularly shy, it can have an effect on the pupils' outlook as well. Maybe they start to be a wee bit shy. So really, I wanted to break that barrier, and I think the best way for me to approach that at the time was just to treat everybody like equals. I didn't want to approach the workshops coming in with a kind of teachery sounding voice. The tone of my voice was important, and or what do you like? What kind of music do you like? What music do you like? And putting it out across the board, not just asking the pupil something and keeping that separate for what I asked the parents. I wanted to make it completely inclusive, so everyone had their place, and a chance to really showcase their own singing voice as well. So I would split some of the songs in A Million Dreams there that you sort of quickly heard. We had the parents singing the first part and we had the pupils singing the second part. And it gave them a chance to stand alone and sing, which I think initially was quite scary, but they were incredibly proud of themselves when they sung without, their children. They were very proud of themselves. And one of the examples of that was one of the parents had come in. She was really petrified in the games as well. She found it very, very hard to get involved with the singing, but her child just loved to sing. And the support that the pupil gave the parent was lovely. And a lot of time we see it from the parent to the pupil, but in this case, it was the pupil to the parent. And they empowered, their mum to sing. And it was like, that's so good, mum. You sound fantastic. It's not ever about what they produce, even though it's been excellent. It's not about that. It's about the process, as we know. And I would see that maybe about 3 weeks in, and that's quite early. Just that consistency. And the parents now have got playlists in their car, and they're maybe singing in the car a wee bit more. They've been singing around the house together. If I send them challenges, they're again working with the pupils on that as well. And that's really what we wanted. And that takes me on to the development of relationships. For me, visually, seeing little touches as they're singing, in the last clip there as well, it just takes me back, because I remember seeing they were singing A Million Dreams and their arm was round their child and just caressing them as they sung it, just so proud that they sung that little last part of A Million Dreams for the world we're going to make. And then there was that physical contact, and I'm a big emotional wreck, so that nearly had me in tears. I think I had to turn around and hide behind the piano at that time. So just moving on to COVID challenges and benefits. As I said before, COVID, it did scare me a little bit. I was just getting to grips with the online learning. I was very conscious that they could only hear me with singing, and because of the time difference, we couldn't sing together. And I thought, how am I going to manage to sustain that? And initially, when we sent out the videos, I wasn't expecting lots of people engaging, but there was, and I was really shocked and surprised and pleasantly surprised. And as we went online, there was parents able to make it who couldn't make it before because of work. We had not just maybe a parent and their child. We had the grannies, we had the sisters, we had uncles, we had everyone on our Google Classrooms joining in on the sessions. And believe it or not, that has carried on now in person. I'm now in one school where the gran comes along, the mum comes along, the sister after high school comes along, and the pupil herself, and it is a big sing-along. We have about 4 families in that particular group, and they're all just bringing along different family members, which is super exciting for me. So yeah, a real benefit of that is just getting everyone involved and not just parent and child. So I felt COVID was incredibly, the COVID challenges, we managed to be successful in that, and I was surprised by that. And going back in person, it's much better in person, obviously, but certainly I feel that we're able to access some more families that we weren't before, which was super exciting for me. If we just move on to the final slide, and that is, we did that, and we did that is one of the quotes for our our parents actually that said we did that. Obviously with the end product to be proud of, that's something that we discussed, myself, Katie and Mark. We always wanted something to work towards, and before COVID that was performance in the school, so we were looking into doing assembly performances, and I'd got the parents to the point where they were okay with that, which was a huge success for me. And then COVID hit and I couldn't do it, and I was devastated. So when it was online, we then looked at doing online recordings, and for us it was quite tricky and footery, recording voices and emailing your recording and various different things, but it was worth it because we hadn't actually heard each other sing. They, like yourselves, had to listen to me rabbiting on for ages and singing, and they never got the chance to sing together as a group. And when we did these recordings, they were able to hear everyone all together, and it was just a magical experience. So yeah, with our own personal growth, that's one of the quotes that I just thought was fantastic. We did that, you know, looking at everyone in the group. So I'll finish up there. Thank you so much for listening to me, and if we wouldn't mind playing the recording so that we can hear our end product.
I've been trying to do it right. I've been living a lonely life. I've been sleeping here instead. I've been sleeping in my bed. Sleeping in my bed. So show me family, all the blood that I will bleed. I don't know where I belong. I don't know where I went wrong, but I can write a song. I belong with you, you belong with me, you're my sweetheart. I belong with you, you belong with me, you're my sweetheart.